All right. So my takeaway, well, it is about the Browns, and this is the first Browns takeaway that we've had. And it's going to be, a combination of both things about the Odell situation, about the Browns in general. But my main takeaway is that if the Browns lose to the Bengals on Sunday, I think their season is over. I don't think they make the playoffs. And I think they have to reevaluate a lot of things on both sides of the ball next offseason. And the reason why is because, I made a post about it. I was just so frustrated with all the things that had happened, the past couple of days about Odell Beckham Jr. And, this is exactly why I've wanted him out. It's just unnecessary narratives, unnecessary attention that's been brought to a locker room that's trying to change a losing culture. This has been happening, for the last 2 years. Every single time he's been on the field, it's always this question of would they have won without him? Whose fault is it? Right. And it's just so unnecessary for a team that's really just trying to avoid all these distractions. And I saw, Chris Broussard, an analyst, who's an NBA analyst, and now he's, doing another show where he has to talk about football. And he stated that the Browns just can't handle expectations. And yes, I agree with that, and part of it is on them. They need to learn to handle stuff like this, but some of it is unnecessary, right? Every time they've been doubted, coming into 2020, no one expected, everyone thought they would be mediocre. Remember, Streaker had them 7-9. And what do? They go 11-5. They kind of prove people wrong. They had no expectations of winning in Pittsburgh, and they do it. But the years prior, right, 2019, when they were expected to make a surge, 2021, again, they've fallen short. And I think it's just, part of it is on them. But this unnecessary stuff with the whole, Odell Beckham Sr. video, and with even LeBron, who has no business critiquing, what the Browns should do or shouldn't do, makes a post like that. And again, it brings all these people who are fans of them, right? Especially with Odell, who's a social media star. It's just this unnecessary stuff, backlash towards everyone on the team, saying the Browns are a poverty franchise for not, freeing Odell. When in reality, it's not just Odell's fault. It's not just Baker's fault. There's no one who's truly at fault here. It's just, a culmination of things not working. And, I broke down a lot of the stuff that, how the Browns ran their offense in 2019, right? Things with RPOs. That's how they got back on the ball. The system is just not the same. And people have to realize that. It was the same thing with Stephon Diggs in Minnesota. Ironically, Stefanski was also there. They had, two 1,000-yard receivers. Dalvin Cook was there. Diggs was unhappy. Okay. Despite them winning. Right. And it just goes to show that Diggs wasn't really used. He fits better in a different system where he can be a number one. And we've seen it with Buffalo. So, that's kind of my little spill on it. And I think, for a team that just lot of unnecessary drama, this game is going to be a really big telling test, because if they lose, right, I'm just going to conclude it with this. If they lose, everyone's going to be on their case. Oh, they would have won with Odell. They would have won if they could get the ball to Odell. Right. If they lose on Sunday, they'll fall to 4-5. And I think, they're just teams with, a lot more stability than them right now. Pittsburgh being one, New England being another. I just don't think they get into a wild card spot, and certainly not the division.
Do you want to go? Yeah, I mean, look, I've defended Odell, I think, a lot this year. I've come out and said that I thought he could have a top 10 wide receiver season this year, because I just didn't expect the chemistry failure between Baker and Odell to be something that could just be continuing. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't think we've ever seen something like this. Like, I know Diggs and Cousins had like a little scuffle that one time in Minnesota, but just for on the field, a quarterback just to not be able to hit a good receiver who gets open decently consistently, and the receiver
I'm playing better without him. It's so weird.
I think they're both good. I think Baker's good, and I think Odell's good, and they just can't do it together, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. And I will stand by my take that he could have had a top 10 wide receiver season if they just had the right chemistry. Like, if it worked out together, I think Odell is in a perfect offense for him to succeed. I think Odell is a perfect receiver for Baker. They can't do it. He can hit everyone else deep other than Baker, and at this point, it's inexplicable, but it's true. And I can't defend what Odell's dad did, but I will say, I think it is a little bit weak what the Browns are doing by just saying he's basically not on the team and telling him not to come to practice. Like, it's making all these headlines. And I think it's another just dumb thing the Browns have done, especially when you consider the fact that they could have traded him to a multitude of teams before the deadline. Like, the Saints wanted Odell Beckham Jr. and they decided not to trade him. And then the next day just come and say, don't come to practice. I think it is absolutely stupid what the Browns have done. I think it is a terrible move. It makes no sense, especially coming on the heels of the trade deadline. I don't understand. There may be something that we don't know yet. I've heard there are reports from other Browns players saying that when Odell is around, he talks to nobody. He sits by himself.
Well, if
then trade him.
come on.
Then trade him. It makes
Agreed.
absolutely no sense. The Browns, I think, are the clear losers of the trade deadline outside of Miami Dolphins. And honestly, while I can't defend some of the stuff, like I think you're maybe overreacting a little bit to the LeBron thing, because LeBron is such a big Cleveland person. He's allowed to put out his personal opinion just like you are.
It's just a weird thing to say, though.
But he knows. No, but hold on. He's a friend of Odell, and he knows what he's doing. Anyone in a player's camp who says something like this, whether it be a relative, a close friend, has to have consent from the guy. I don't care who it is. And LeBron especially knows that. You guys know how much of a LeBron fan I am, but for him to do that, he knows that his followers are going to see it. And keep in mind, this dude has tens of millions of followers on Twitter. Everyone's going to see it. And if someone like that, someone that they idolize, is saying that, they're going to side with him. They are, right? Because they say, like, look at this. LeBron's played football. He knows football. And if he's saying this, I got to say it too. That is just, it's so unnecessary to a team that he's supposedly a fan of, right? He supposedly supports. He knows what this is going to do, right? Because here's the thing. Yes, they did it hours before the trade deadline. Keep in mind, hours. So you're banking on the fact that he was going to be traded. If he doesn't, it's over. You cannot see him in the same locker room again. You can't, because what is that? It's so hard for him to go back now, right? And, two guys, Baker Mayfield and Odell, who have consistently worked with each other in the offseason. I've seen a multitude of videos on different channels, right? On Jarvis's official channel, I've seen them, going on a boat together in Austin. I mean, they've done all these types of things. They've been so close. And for his dad to release a video like that, there had to have been some consent within Odell. And I'm not saying Odell's at fault, because Baker's wife, Emily, also, liked a bunch of posts defending Baker. So I'm not going to say either of them are completely, innocent here, but it's just so hard for a quarterback, right? I mean, that's just so, big to his confidence, right? Especially a guy like Baker Mayfield, who's, always got this chip on his shoulder, right? What type of message does that send to him? And, there's still a lot of people who believe in this whole notion that Baker is better without Odell. And I think this is the game for him to kind of prove that. This is a big game for him. A guy who's considered to have owned Cincinnati, right? 5-1 in his 6 games against them. He's had some of his best games. His best career game, in my opinion, was against Cincy, right? Statistically last year. So this is a huge win, because I want to talk about that in itself, more about the Browns, right? Because if they're 4-4 right now, and obviously we could point to some games that they should have won, right? Kansas City being one of them, LA being another. But reality of it is that they're 4-4. They've beaten the teams that they should have, and they've lost at the teams that they could have, but just have fallen short against. And
all right.
Yeah, you want to say something?
I'll say something. I mean, you lose to a Steelers team with no offense. For the second half, they had no kicker. So you're basically just going up against that defense. And now you're 4-4, last place in the AFC North. I'll say this, Baker Mayfield is playing with a harness on his left shoulder. So I got to give him props for actually fighting through and being able to play. But I mean, the rest of the roster still is injured. The schedule is not looking good. He's still got 5 divisional games on the docket. It's very unforgiving there. I mean, the playoffs are still a distinct possibility, but I don't know. This season was supposed to be so much more for the Browns. We had them as potential Super Bowl contenders. No. We had them, contending for the division at least. Not doing that either. It's such a dud of a season when we compare it to the expectations they had, which is why I agree with what Anish said and what Chris Broussard said about expectations. This team plays better when there's not as much pressure on them. Obviously, there's pressure every year, but I mean, every year they have expectations. They always flounder, and and even beyond, this regular season, there's still a lot of questions. What's going to happen to Rashard Higgins in free agency? What's going to happen to Wyatt Teller? What's going to happen to, Odell, obviously. Ward. What's going to happen? Denzel Ward. You got David Njoku. What's going to happen with him?
Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield.
Does Mayfield? No,
Chubb said
that option.
Chubb,
yes,
Chubb signed.
Yeah.
Does Mayfield get that extension? Do they pick up the 5th-year option? What's going to happen there? It's also fair to consider, but I wouldn't say the Browns, they're dead, but I don't know. I'm starting to count them out right now.
I am already counting them out, and you can quote me on this. You can clip it, Jack. If the Browns lose on Sunday, I guarantee they won't make the playoffs this season. I guarantee it. I will 100%. I will double down on it. I will put my money's worth where my mouth is. I 100% guarantee that the Browns will not make the playoffs if they don't beat Cincinnati.
I think
The
I would
funny part
agree.
is, if they do beat Cincinnati, they've got the same record as the Bengals.
Yep. So that's how big
That's
of a
the
game this
AFC.
is. Think about it. If let's say Baltimore loses, right? Let's say so some way they lose to Minnesota, and let's say we beat Cincinnati, right? We're 5-4, right? The Steelers, okay, they're 5-3. Bengals are also 5-4. We'd have the tiebreaker, and Baltimore's 5-3. This division is still wide open if the Browns were to win. If they lose, then you kind of got your placings. You've got Ravens at 1, Bengals at 2. That's still a toss-up. And then you've got Steelers at a clear 3, and we're going to be a clear 4. I'm really confident in saying that. And look, you guys can call me. People have tried calling me a biased Browns fan. I think that is absolutely not the case. I'm as realistic when it comes to this team. And I think as of right now, I'm full confidence in saying that this is honestly the season right now.
Yeah, I think it's also entirely my fault, and I do apologize because you're getting the Jack Smith Super Bowl curse.
Yeah, I hate you. I said this in the beginning of the year. I was so pissed when this dude was high on the Browns because I knew something was going to happen. You can never have Jack Smith like your team. It always has to be Jack going against them so that they can do good. So
Yeah.
I completely blame him in terms of my superstitions. But look, I'm knocking on wood. I'm sure you guys could hear that through the mic, that the Browns will win on Sunday. I am praying. I took my Baker Mayfield poster down. Maybe that'll give us some luck. I don't know. I'm trying everything.
Oh, you got to show the shirt. You got to show the shirt.
Yeah, This is the last time you will ever see this shirt. Okay, I'm never wearing this again. If we lose, I'm throwing this out the window. I've got my window right there. It's 2 stories high. I'm throwing it down. But yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen on Sunday because it's not looking good.
Yeah, I still think I'm holding out hope that the Browns can sneak into the playoffs because I think that they are still a very dangerous team. The style of football they play is very conducive to being able to win in the playoffs. But it's not looking good right now. It's not looking good. And we'll come back next week and we'll have a better opinion on it once we see this Bengals game. And we're going to pick that one later today. It is going to be it's a doozy. It's a tough one to pick.